involves a lot of project managers. So what we say is that it's where project leaders are made, which is what I hope PMI Portugal Toastmasters does for its membership. I just see now that the meeting is being recorded. That's fine for me. Now, when I first joined the Toastmasters, I was in transition from my 35 years at BP to a new career as a consultant. And I was very keen to develop my skills in public speaking as part of that. And what I found is there's three things that have been the purpose behind my involvement. First of all, and I can describe as 3 C's. Each speech that I've done, it's been an opportunity to develop confidence. And a lot of that comes through the feedback. Competence, that's through trying new things. And actually, a third C is challenging yourself to do new things. And the 3 things that I focused on were vocal variety, humor, telling jokes, which is for some of us not our natural style, but it's good to practice, and also storytelling, something I really like doing, and I feel it's a very powerful way of sharing messages. And through that, moving to the next slide, I've actually been able to present at a number of different events. These are 2 of my favorite events. The one on the left was at a PMI Synergy event in London, in Westminster Hall, in front of 500 people. A short 5 to 7 minute speech is what we normally do in Toastmasters, entitled "To Plan or Not to Plan." And one of the stories I told there was about my wife's new kitchen. We've been living in the same house. We still have the house. Been living for over 20 years, and we still have the tired old kitchen that we moved in with. It was functional, did the job, but my wife's dream was always to have a new kitchen. So one Valentine's Day a few years ago, we were in the kitchen with my wife and Damon, who was the artisan builder who was going to do the kitchen for us. And he said, "Tim, I can do this in 3 months. We have a plan. We know what you want. 3 months." 3 years later, the kitchen was finished. I have to say it was quite a journey. Things around design change, scope creep, and other things as well, resourcing and actually detailed construction, building planning. But in the end, kitchen is fantastic, beautiful work of art, and it's very functional as designed. So that was a story I told on the stage that day. And on the right, you can see I'm actually in a more office environment. In fact, the same speech I'm sharing with you today on benchmarking, I shared with a group of 50 or so members of PMI, the Southern branch in the UK, on the subject of benchmarking. And what's interesting, that the speech runs from about 40 to 45 minutes. I will be sharing a bit of that with you tonight. And actually, when you practice it in chunks of 5 to 7 minutes, it comes together to make a full speech. So that's been my purpose for public speaking. And the final thing to say, the thing that really drives me in it is professional development. Anything I do, I like to be learning and helping others learn as well. So I hope that through this session, you can do that. And my final point on plan with purpose is get your next speech planned, identify the purpose for doing it, develop your confidence, your capability, and challenge yourself. And I'm sure you'll excel. That's my Toastmaster journey. Happy to take questions on that at the end. But what I'm here to do is to really share with you the subject of benchmarking, which is a massive passion of mine. It's something I did a lot with BP. I was the group expert for benchmarking at BP and was involved with many, many different benchmarking activities, particularly on projects, but not only on projects, operations, safety, other areas as well. And it's a very powerful tool. My question for everyone who's on this virtual session is, what challenge are you striving to achieve at the moment? What personal goal do you have? What professional goals are you striving for? Benchmarking can help you with either, and I'm going to give you some examples of that in a minute. But what is benchmarking? Well, benchmarking is a very, very old profession, a very old skill. The original benchmarks were marks on a post or a wall used by surveyors to measure height as a point of reference. And when we translate that to today's context, and it's about the same sort of measure using data, and very powerful data tools are available now which can enhance it even more. It does three things. It drives continuous improvement. It helps you do things better day by day. In a project context, it helps you set realistic targets. And thirdly, I think most importantly for me, if everyone has a mindset for benchmarking, it can support a culture of sharing and learning. So to bring this to life, I'd like to understand a bit more about your own background to in projects. And I'm going to jump 2 slides now and ask a question of you. And that question is, what type of projects are you working on? And there's a poll, which I think Sebastian is going to show. So please put your responses. If you are in more than one, just put the main one. And in fact, if you're other, I'm not sure if I'll be able to see it, but you can even put in the chat box what other type of project you're working on. It looks like the poll is complete now, and hopefully you can all see that. And IT is a clear winner here. Now, I do have experience of IT projects, so it's good. I can relate to the sort of projects you might be working on. In fact, the last large project I worked on as a consultant was with the UK government. And it was helping one of the agencies prepare for EU exit. That's another story. But at the end of the day, they were preparing to operate independently of Europe, but to collaborate. That's where I hope we'll go in that with those sort of projects. So IT tops, and a nice diverse range of folk on the other one: industrial buildings, infrastructure, government, and another 20% other. Thanks for that poll. My background as an expert was based on my time with BP. And the great thing about benchmarking, as I'll describe later, it's something you do internally in an organization, but you do externally. You work with other groups, and it led me to work collaboratively with industry groups, with other companies. And I'll talk a bit about more about that later. I'm going to give you 4 examples of benchmarking of my experience, 1 personal and 3 professional. And my first personal example is to do with running. Now, I presented this webinar, this presentation in the UK, and there's something called the Park Run, which I'll explain what it is. I did have a look, and I don't believe there are any park runs set up in Portugal. Of course, they're not happening at the moment anywhere, sadly, because of the issues with the pandemic. I do hope they start again next year. But basically, they are a free event. And it's all about helping change people's lives through getting them running. And it's certainly something that I took the opportunity to help with my fitness. And the picture you can see is I'm there with my youngest daughter. We completed the 10K run in London, a winter run. It was last year now. And we were very pleased because we beat our challenge of doing the 10 kilometers in under 1 hour. That did involve some preparation, some training, some practice. And the 5-kilometer park run was perfect for that. It's a very simple concept, and it very much hinges on data and using technology. All you need to do is sign up on a website. You get a barcode you print off. You turn up at one of the thousands of events that were running in earlier this year. There are 170 people, 170,000 people, most weekends were running in the UK and around the world. And all they all were doing was they were turning up with this barcode. They were running the 5 kilometers. They'd get a time at the end, and that would be posted on the website and they get an email within an hour or two of the end. And the great thing about that was it was a benchmark. You would get a personal time depending on which course you ran. There were many different courses you could run. You get a target you could set yourself against. You get an age-weighted performance, which I like very much. Although when I started doing park runs 5 years ago, my time was, I think I was just doing around 26 minutes. That was my best time. More recently, I was not quite doing the same time. I was approaching 26 minutes, but the age-weighted performance was better. So I was showing improvement over time. And of course, it's being a fun community event. It has all the elements, I think, for supporting people, changing people's lives. So if there's ever the opportunity to do something yourself like this, I'd encourage you to look at doing it and using the data that can help you set your targets, improve, and have fun. That's my personal example. My 3 professional examples, 2 are from my time at BP, and 1 is more recently where I was doing some work helping the UK government. So the first one is related to project practices. And the 3 examples I'm going to share with you are to do with front-end planning, a measure of front-end planning. The second one is a measure of team alignment, very important for project teams. And the third one is project complexity. And I can show you how that can be measured. And then I'm going to show you an interesting insight from that. So to start with front-end planning, there's something here that I was involved with the development of. It comes out of the North American Construction Industry Institute. It's called the Project Definition Rating Index. Effectively, it's a measure of readiness for projects. And there are tools available for industrial projects, infrastructure projects, and buildings projects. And what you do is, with the tool which has been developed by industry, by experts, by contractors, organizations, owners organizations, I actually led one of the working teams looking at infrastructure. You effectively create a checklist, but an informed checklist which is weighted by risk. And it covers 3 areas of projects: the project basis of the project decision, project design, and execution approach. And 70 elements cover those 3 areas. And it can be applied at different stages: the feasibility assessment of a project, the concept planning, and the detailed scope development, all leading up to that point of the final investment decision and saying, well, yes, this project is ready to go. And what it does is it measures the development of that over time. And the nice thing about it, because it's been developed by experts, it has effectively the benchmark against industry as a whole. And then, of course, when you do this within an organization, you can benchmark it against other projects. So PDRI, front-end planning. The second one is team alignment. And this is a measure. You would gather the data by surveying team members anonymously, but then you bring the data together. You'd be looking at the 4 things here: the culture of the team, the quality of leadership, the execution processes, how things are put in place, information, what data is shared and what common understanding is there, and the tools, how do meetings work, how teams work. And the beauty of this is, in assessing alignment, you're assessing functionality of the team. And if you gather that data, if you actually bring the team together to talk about that analysis, you can then surface things that need to be dealt with and improved. So a measure of team alignment is very useful for benchmarking. And the third one is complexity. Each of these ones I'm showing, there's a reference and there's a link at the bottom. And I'm going to say that I may take out a couple of the sort of the pictures here, but these slides, I'm happy to have shared afterwards, after this meeting, for anyone who wants them, probably through PMI Portugal Toastmasters. So we've talked about front-end planning, alignment. The third one around project practices is complexity. Now, this is quite nicely described as the house of project complexity. I actually did some work with some professors at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. And the powerful thing about this was there's a lot of things identified here, but basically it comes down to three main factors in deriving complexity, and you can measure it in comparison with other projects, and we did so. There are the technical features that make it complex. What technology is it using? The institutional features, the context for a project, where it is in the world, and what sort of regulations is it subject to. And thirdly, most interesting, is the architecture, which is not so much what's given for a project, but how the project is set up. Things around location of the project, whether you've got a project team in different places, how the governance is set up. And all those three combined can be measured, and you can do comparisons, and that can be the basis for looking at decisions on projects as to how much effort to put into planning, what sort of resourcing, what sort of quality of leadership is required. More complex projects will clearly need more attention. But the interesting insight from looking at these three measures I'm going to share you, I've got one insight to share with you. That I've done a lot of work, and there are various benchmarking groups who do analysis as well, looking at input factors and output results. And the next chart I'm going to show you shows you a very interesting relationship between schedule, slippage, team alignment, and complexity. And the line on this chart is a best fit amongst some data. Around 20 projects, so I would say what you see here is a trend rather than a definitive relationship, but a powerful trend, because the R squared, the fit of those points around this line was 0.74. One would be perfect fit. So this is not a bad fit, but certainly what I describe as a useful insight. And in essence, if you have a very complex project and you don't have very good team alignment, you are going to have a long delay. Schedule slippage is delay. Put another way, if you want to minimize the risk of slipping the schedule, you should try and reduce the complexity and have strong team alignment. So that's one insight from benchmarking, and there are many others, and some are dependent on an organization, some are industry dependent, but this is one that I came up with working with colleagues on some of the data. So that's my first professional example, what benchmark of project practices. My second example relates to benchmarking of gas pipelines and the use of benchmarking in the phase up towards the approval of a project. And this is a project, there's a number of projects related to pipelines running from Azerbaijan to Europe through into Turkey for oil and for gas. And my role in this was to work with the project teams to do benchmarking of effectively front-end planning. So the PDRI that I explained earlier, we did, and I facilitated a number of PDRI workshops with the project teams. And they were very powerful, these workshops. And the story I like to tell is working in one of the contractor's offices overlooking Paddington Station in London. We had in the room all the key players for the project, from the project manager, project services manager, the discipline leads, environmental expert, safety expert. And we went through the checklist. There was a lot of tension in the room because this this review was an important part of making the case for investment. The project wanted to show that it was ready and that it had addressed any risks or issues which could be apparent in the front end planning of a project. And we went through the items on the agenda on the PDRI list, things like the project objectives, the project scope, cost, schedule, environmental impact assessment. And we got to that point. And the question was, well, where are we with that? And then there was a quiet voice in the room that said, well, we've done that and it's out for review. And the question, and one of the other people in the room who was one of the project service managers who was leading effectively through the checklist I was facilitating said, well, great, we can tick that one off. And I said, wait, tell me more. This was what I describe as the art of facilitation, is listening and then leading. I could hear that there was something more to be found out at this point. So environmental impact assessment, the environmental specialist said, well, it's out for review with stakeholders and the government and with partners. And I said, yes, tell me more. I said, well, they need to review it and they've said they're going to take a certain amount of time. I said, yes, tell me more. I said, well, we need to get that done before we go to approval. And at that point, the room went silent. There was a realization that if these approvals were not achieved in time, then there'd be a risk to the project approval schedule. The good news was they identified it then. They said, okay, we need to put extra effort into the process. And I'm pleased to say they didn't miss their approval date because of that. So that's an example of how a benchmarking type workshop in a facilitated environment can make a big difference to a project being ready and not being subject to delays, or in fact, the impact can be on cost and schedule outcomes as well. The evidence is that if you do good front-end planning as measured, you get 15% better cost outcomes on average and 25% better schedule outcomes. So something to commend you to. Now, the PDRI I described wasn't the only thing that they were benchmarking as part of this project. In fact, there was a benchmarking supplement to what was called the finance memorandum and the FM. And that in effect had the PDRI, which is the chart shown here. And actually this shows in green dots some reference points. But it also had three other things. There was a schedule benchmark. I haven't got the actual chart to show you here. That's confidential, but I can describe that. Effectively, it was comparing meters per spread day. A spread is the crew, the team, the equipment that would install the pipeline. And it was measuring from started weld into completed backfill. So it had some comparisons. It had 5 or 6 simple bars on a chart. It showed the project in question, a couple of bars on it because it had 2 different scopes, areas for work, against some green bars, which were the reference projects. And those reference projects were ones which were specified or agreed with the central projects team for BP. And basically what that was showing was that whilst the schedule spread per day was probably longer than benchmark, there were reasons for it. There was more brownfield work, it was less continuous work. And a similar story for the cost. And then what's interesting here, there's a metric used for pipelines, it's cost per inch kilometer, where the inch is to do with the diameter. And that basically had a similar set of comparisons. And then the final thing on the chart was looking at the total cost by main element, but also a benchmark of contingency. Contingency is quite a common thing to be benchmarked. So that's my second benchmark example. And the third one is, before I move on to the third one, another poll, having gone through those 2 areas of benchmarking: the cost, schedule, and benefits, which are to do with outcomes; practices are front-end planning, complexity, and team alignment. I'd be interested in what your experience, if any, has been of benchmarking. So another chance you have a poll, and you can respond to one or more of these, please. So just take a few seconds to have a go at this, and I'll be interested to see your results. When I've done this, I've had quite different results from different audiences. So I'll be interested to see what your experience of benchmarking is. I hope that you've appreciated what the concept is. So we'll see the results in a minute when we've got a good response. I think you're still out there. Sipping my coffee.
25. Should I close it, Tim? Or...
Close it. Let's see what we've got.
Okay, I'm going to close it and share it.
Thank you. Right.
Cost.
I'm not cost. That's what I expected. Schedule a bit less. I am very pleased to see front-end planning, complexity, and team alignment have come out higher than I've seen elsewhere. So that probably is a sign that that you've experienced some what I call some useful benchmarking of project practices. And maybe some of the questions later you can share how it's worked for you, because I'm always keen to learn and see what tools and techniques other people have used. Thank you for that, Paul, Sebastian. And we can move on to my final example. But before doing that, this is what I've had in other places, sort of a waterfall, but cost and schedule normally prominent, other ones a bit less. So an interesting, the result here was slightly different, but not dissimilar. My third example of professional is some work I did with the Infrastructure and Projects Authority, which I hope you may have heard of. If not, they are part of the UK Government Cabinet Office. They've been driving improved project performance across the whole of the project portfolio that the government is doing. In fact, they've got a very important role at the moment in relaunching the Bill, which seems to be part of the UK government's approach. This is a document, Best Practices in Benchmarking, that I helped contribute to. And it's available online from gov.uk. If you're interested in benchmarking, then listen to me now, and then I'll go look more deeply. So it talks quite helpfully about the benefits of benchmarking by project stage, during policy creation, during delivery conversations, and at the end of the project as well, that learning loop. And I've highlighted the C's here again, because I can see that benchmarking helps with the creation of projects, conversations, to have some data to have a conversation on is very helpful. Challenge, and that's very helpful to have what I call open challenge in a benchmarking culture. Confidence, those comparisons, those charts I mentioned, they give confidence to the decision maker, and continuous improvement. And the document talks about a process for benchmarking, and then that to do it well requires a certain amount of rigor. And what you can see here is it's described in 7 stages. I coined an acronym Octavia, which means 8th born child, but I think it's helpful for me certainly to remember the elements of it. So if you're doing a benchmarking exercise or certainly on a major project or in an organization, where to start is with the objective. What's the whole purpose of the organization or the project? What are the key success things that are important? And that can help you understand what would be important to measure. Once you've got that, then you look at the components. What are the pieces of the project that you can compare with other projects or other industries? I'm going to show you an example about tunneling in a minute. And obviously tunnels you can have for utilities, for trains, for rail and roads. So that's an example of a component. Then you need a template. You need a basis for comparing information. And it's quite important that you can, the data you compare, you can be confident that it has a similar basis. You then need to acquire the data. This is where you need to be conscious of who you can compare with, and building a level of trust. And then you move to assess, where you bring that data together to do the analysis. Sixth step I've described as image, and it's actually the power of a picture in making a comparison. So things like a spider diagram, bar charts, those sort of things can be helpfully help illuminate what you're seeing in terms of a benchmark. And then finally assess. And that's sort of assessing the value of your results, and that becomes a feedback loop. Yeah, I think I may have got to step 5. So you validate. So validate is all about checking that the data is right, and so that you've got confidence in the quality of the data. Then you create the images, and then you can assess and close the loop. Octavia as the process. Tunneling. I've got 2 charts from what I describe as the worked example of good benchmarking following that sort of process. And the first chart here shows the comparison of projects related to tunnel length against what's an interesting metric, which is cost per unit volume, which is pound sterling per meter per kilometer per meter cubed. So then compared to pipelines were looking at the diameter, or I guess circumference. This was looking at the actual volume, the surface area. And you can see here that there are a couple of what I call trend lines, the distinction between transport tunnels and utility tunnels. Utility tunnels are normally a bit smaller. And this is helpful if you're building a tunnel, because you can do 2 things with this in terms of benchmark. One, you can compare against the trend line, but you also can identify particular projects you can go and compare with. So there's 2 approaches to the benchmarking there. And the second one, this one looked at cost. This one is looking at effectively schedule comparisons. And once again, you've got the distinction between a utility pipeline and a transport pipeline. So that completes my 3rd professional example. The final thing I'd like to say about benchmarking generally is the concept of internal and external benchmarking, and then the yin and yang. As you can imagine, it's going to be easier to do benchmarks amongst projects you actually know about, or maybe in your own your department or division or organization, because you probably have access to the data, hopefully. But the real power of benchmarking is when you can do it externally and learn from other organizations, or even other parts of your organization. When I was working with BP, we had upstream, downstream, chemicals, alternative energy, shipping, IT, some very different spheres, and we were able to create a sort of culture of benchmarking to help sharing where it was helpful. I mean, there are 3 things which are barriers to effective external benchmarking, and then unfortunately, they do involve lawyers. There's the need for non-disclosure agreements if you're working with other organizations. There's a need for intellectual property to be considered. And then thirdly, there's this human thing, this trust. If you have all those in place, then it's very powerful, and particularly where you can blend internal and external benchmarking to help identify where you might improve effective targets, and that's a culture of sharing and learning. So to summarize, a benchmark is very simple. It's very old-fashioned, but it has a place in today's world because of data. It's that mark on the wall, that reference point that you can use and use as a basis to continually improve. the running or building better pipelines. You can set realistic targets, and particularly for mega projects, it can be helpful in identifying what is a realistic or what might be an over-optimistic target in terms of too low a cost or too quick a schedule, and then creating that culture of sharing and learning. So what I'd encourage you all to do is to consider how benchmarking can help you in your professional activities and personal. The wise use of data. And I encourage you to consider benchmarking as something that can make a difference for you. Señoras y señores, thank you so much for listening. I look forward to taking some questions in a minute. And I'll hand back to Luis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tim, for Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing your experience and your challenges within projects. And we now open the floor to anyone in the audience who'd like to question you anything. Here you go, Franco.
Yes. Hi, Luis. I am Franco Guarella, and I am a director of the PMI UK chapter. However, I am Italian, I live in London. And I would like, on behalf of the PMI UK chapter, to convey our regards to your chapter. And also, I am happy of this opportunity of a collaboration. A few weeks ago, Ivan got in touch with us, and with the collaboration of Tim, that I congratulate also for the presentation of this evening, we have put in place this event. And while conveying my wishes to your chapter, I express the wish also that we may replicate in future and we make a more stable link among our chapters. Thank you.
You're welcome. I thank you. So anyone would like to, is there anyone who'd like to ask Tim any in-depth? Okay, let's go, Dennis. You have the stage.
Thank you, Luis. Tim, thank you very much for your presentation. I've learned a lot about benchmarking with this. I have one little question. You had a chart on your presentation that said that the timing of the project will slip if the complexity increases and the team alignment decreases. It was on the same axis.
Yes.
So do you have any suggestion on how to increase complexity without disaligning the team?
Right. So that was the chart that showed the relationship between project slippage and a measure of complexity and team alignment. So basically, the sample was a group of projects, and for each project we had a measure of complexity and a measure of team alignment. And we were looking at how those things together influenced the outcome. So the message for me was, if you understand what the complexity is of a project, you can do a number of things, including, most importantly, make sure your team alignment matches that. If you know you've got a very complex project, you know you need very, very good team alignment. If you've got a less complex project, you may be able to get away with a less effective team. So that would be my answer to your question. Now, if there's changes in project over time, as there are, if projects might get more complex, then you probably got two choices. You can either, you need to stop and say, well, I need to sort of reconsider this project because the complexity is changing, or you probably need to put more extra emphasis on the team if you know it's getting more complex.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else would like to get a chance to ask Tim something about project management, benchmarking, and his Toastmasters path?
And
you can also use the chat if you want, and then we just...
Yeah. And also I'd say, I was very interested in the poll about people's experience at benchmarking. I'd very like to hear from anyone who put in, for example, around team alignment, front-end planning, complexity, what their experience was with that.
Okay, Roberto, you go.
Hello, Tim. Thanks for your presentation. Most of us here, at least 1/3 of the members are in this club, are project managers. So we know about something about the cost estimation, the time estimation, but that's the first time I see it as a science, as the benchmarking, because you are comparing this project with other projects. My question is, from a sponsor point of view, because as project managers, we understand the value of this, but from your experience leading your project sponsors, what's the benefits they see from this? And if they ask for the benchmarking before they approve the project, if it is something that we do inside the project, or it is something that you share when you go for a board or sponsor to approve a project?
Right. So I think there's the two things I would encourage. If you're in a project and are looking for confidence yourself, and I would encourage you to benchmark the key things, and it's opportunity, particularly when you want to try and sort of learn from others. In terms of the project process, on the other hand, certainly my experience is of a requirement. I mean, that pipeline story I told, there was definitely a requirement from the organization that benchmarking would be presented and would have to effectively pass the test. And then the benchmarking was actually reviewed and by a central organization as part of that. So I think that it's possible for both to use it as to help yourself in your project, but also it may be a requirement from the organization who is providing the funds.
Great question, great answer. Thank you, Tim. Would anyone else like to ask Tim a question?
You have Jock.
Who is trying?
João Oliveira.
Okay, João Oliveira Gonçalves, you have the stage.
Thank you, Luis. Tim, maybe changing the subject, one other thing that intrigued me more preparing this session is you are not only benchmarking for personal or professional, but you are also a professional Toastmaster in weddings. Do
Yes.
you use benchmarking in weddings, making speeches and all this kind of thing? Can you just tell us this new field that we can use in Portugal at the PMI Portugal Toastmasters?
Well, so a professional Toastmaster is a master of ceremonies for special events. So in terms of benchmarking a special event, there's clearly you want to learn from others, and there may well be standards or common practices that are used. One of the things I enjoy very much at weddings when I do my master of ceremonies Toastmaster role are the speeches. I don't know what weddings are like in Portugal, but in the UK, speeches are, there's a tradition that you have three speeches. You have the father of the bride, you have the bridegroom, and then you have the best man. Now, people ask for advice. I say, well, those are the sort of the normal benchmarks. but weddings these days, they are can have a lot of flexibility and variability about them. And so the great thing about having experience of many, many different weddings, including my own daughter's wedding 3 years ago, that's a project management story I should share sometime, maybe, my daughter's wedding. But you get from that reference, you can give advice, but you need to give it in a way that you're offering ideas rather than telling people how they should do it. So I'd call it soft benchmarking, but based on experience.
That's semantics for you, Tim. Thank you for that. And so the next question comes from, okay, it comes from me. So you've talked about complex projects and team coherence, and we had a chemical company a while ago, a nanotechnology company, that the average employee there was a PhD. And we had a huge star problem there because everyone on every project was a star. How do you deal with these, with complex projects that they were, in your experience? And I'm sure you had plenty of those in BP as well. How did you manage that?
Well, if I can take a sort of benchmarking angle on this, so there's two things. Is you probably benchmark how a project was resourced and staffed. Where are the roles filled that need to be filled, but with the right people? And then you probably want to assess the alignment of that team. I suspect in doing a benchmarking of a team full of stars, you might find quite possibly some different opinions and views, and then you'd probably need to surface those to either get alignment or not. Because at the end of the day, if you've got a team that's not going to function, you need to change it. But sometimes that's going to be hard to do.
And costly as well.
Yes, but ideally do it. You know, that's why in the front end planning stage of a project, it's important to effectively sort these things out, so that you, when you get into you've made your investment decision or you're well advanced, you're not having to sort of stop. You're set up for success.
Right. Easier said than done, but yeah, you're absolutely right. So let's get around the audience. So Roberto wants to speak. Rodrigo wants to? Okay, Rodrigo, you go. Your turn.
Thank you. Tim, thank you for your presentation. I have a very specific question for you. It's related to what I found most interesting in your presentation, which was the PDRI approach, which was something that I actually seen it before. A couple of years ago, I attended to a webinar where they talked about the PDRI. And at the time I found it also very interesting, but I was just checking the website. And what I found is that it's mostly related, well, the knowledge base that I find here is mostly related to industrial, building, and infrastructure projects.
Yes.
My question to you is that if you know of any knowledge base or any place that we can check that can help us create something close to a PDRI approach for IT projects.
That's a great question. I mean, I have to say I've not come across anything as powerful as PDRI. I've certainly seen some good benchmarking done in terms of comparison of projects. To create something for an IT project, I guess you also have to consider the evolution into doing things in a more agile way. But even then, you should have a good planning. Even with an agile project, is important. So I think, to be honest, I've not come across anything equivalent for IT. But if you're in an organization that's done a number of projects, and I'm sure that you'd have a number of people you could gather. There may well be some checklists already. But basically, what you could look at the PDRI outline, and the equivalent to the basic design, basic project decision, and the execution approach. All three would be applicable to a certain type of IT project. And then, of course, the other dimension to IT projects are also change, management of change. And so there's the aspects of change management. And I've certainly come across many approaches to change management, which require certainly good planning. And I'm sure there are aspects of that you could create a checklist for. So nothing out there which is off the shelf. But a similar approach, I'm sure, could be.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess now it's Roberto's turn again.
Sorry, Tim.
Go, Roberto.
Quick question. You've talked about the importance of the art of facilitating. So you have to listen, then to lead. So in this case, you need to listen until you have to listen and make the questions until you are comfortable with the answers, or until there are no more questions, I would say. Okay, from a planning point of view. But how do you measure the quality or the error of your benchmarking? Let's give you an example. If you do some polls for elections, let's say for Trump in US, you know there is some error, right, on your poll. How do you measure what is the level of confidence that you can get from your benchmarking? If there is some order of magnitude, 10%, how do you measure that, the error and the confidence?
Well, great question. I would say you get confidence from having confidence in the data and the comparisons you're making. You're never going to get a perfect comparison. You can't use a benchmark to say, well, because the benchmark is X, then our result will be X. Or you're bound to be a little bit different, but you need to explain that difference. And this is where I would say there's an element of the art and science of benchmarking. The science is clearly the data, that the art is the judgment, the interpretation. So I would I'd answer it without, there's bound to be some differences, but you need to explain them. Thank you for your question. How are we doing? We must be coming close to the Q&A time.
Almost there, but we still have some 5 minutes or so. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask something from Tim?
Eu.
Who is eu? Oh, Ivan. You go, Ivan.
I just wanted to say thank you to Tim, Frank, and also to Johan and PMI UK to bring to us this night and give to us this brilliant and this awesome moment. Thank you for this opportunity. And as Franco said, let's do it more often. Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations for your speech.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Ivan.
you, Ivan.
And as I said in my Toastmaster journey, half of what I got out of being a member is, as well as getting the chance to practice my confidence, my competence, That's all been reinforced by the feedback, the evaluations I've had, the mentoring I've had, and the practice I've had. So I'd be keen to get feedback from today's session in whatever form it comes. I think there'll be a bit of a review later on. And if there's any questions on the content that I provided, I will share the slides with PMI Portugal Toastmasters. I need to take a couple of pictures out, but there's some links on those, but more than happy to take questions or connect with folk on LinkedIn if they think that would be helpful.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Tim. Is there anyone else who would like to ask something? If not, I'm going to close with an easy question for Tim. I don't see anyone else. Is there someone else?
Hi, Rui Domingos. I would like to
Rui,
ask.
you go.
Okay. Tim, what kind of problems can you identify when you have team disalignment? What you are talking about? Can you be more specific, please?
Yeah. So a couple of examples from my PDRI workshops, because actually those workshops, as well as looking at front-end planning, you can see where there might be disconnects. One was when there was a misunderstanding of project objectives. A simple thing is just the capacity and timing of a project in terms of its scope. There'd been some changes and not everyone in the room was on the same page. So that was clearly an important source of misalignment, and thankfully they caught that early. And the second one is integration of plans. And in a major capital project, you may have plans for the design and installation, but then you need to align those with construction activity or other activities which may well need to interface. So those would be areas where you could end up with misalignment, and both in terms of the technical aspects, but also which would show up in terms of the team being disconnected, particularly if you might have silos of activity.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
So one last quick question. So in all your time with BP, I guess there was a couple of occasions where you weren't bored with your job. So what was the best single biggest challenge that you ever had while on BP?
Well, I think challenges. Well, I thought the thing that sprung to mind was not necessarily a challenge, but it was an exciting moment. But a challenge to me was when my daughter came to work for BP.
I wasn't expecting that.
and I hadn't realized, well, obviously she obviously was keen to follow me, but in her own way. And she turned up on my birthday 2 years before I completed my time, and we overlapped for 2 years, which was great. So my challenge was, as I said in when I was finishing my time, I said I was keen to sort of move on, do new things before my daughter became my boss.
That was smart, I guess. Okay, thank you so much, Tim.
Fun one, anyway.
I can imagine that. Thank you so much, Tim. You gave us a great opportunity to get some insights on benchmarking. Thank you for that. And I think collaborating between chapters should be, and not only chapters, but between Toastmasters, between clubs, between people in general. It's something that we should definitely do more often, get more insights from different perspectives that we don't expect. So thank you so much for that. And moving on with the session. So this was a very special moment with Tim Podesta. We usually have some kind of short speeches and presentations. This was a longer one. So we only have time for one so-called regular speech. So in Toastmasters, we have at this moment 11 paths that you can choose from. So you can develop your skills, maybe their leading skills or communication skills or whatever. So we have crossed over 5 skills with 11 paths. And we have today, Daniela, who is on the innovative planning path. And her project today is basically to get feedback from her last speech and do a better speech now. We have a second challenge, let's say, this evening, because Tim is evaluating Daniela. And not only Tim, but we are all providing Daniela with some feedback in whatever form it's usable for her. So welcome, Daniela. Go for it and enjoy.
Imagine this is your favorite beach, and it is a beautiful summer day on a weekend, and you have just arrived. Unfortunately, you come to the realization that it is closed. You have friends with you or children, and they all start to complain after a few minutes of maybe crying, very sad, everybody. You start to find a new perspective. Maybe one of your friends or children suggest to go to a new beach that is nearby and still enjoy the rest of the day. My beautiful audience, this is my goal with today's presentation. That by the end of it, you will have different tools on how we can face change. Change curve. Please raise your hand if this is the first time that you hear about the change curve. We have a few people. Okay. This is how it looks. There are different stages, and it varies from author to author. I will go over a brief history for those that are hearing this for the first time. So the evolution of the curve is that in 1968, it was created by the psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross when she was studying a group of terminal ill patients that were going through grief and loss. This curve has now been translated and transformed, and today we use it in change management, organizational culture, interpersonal relationships, executive coaching, and many different ways. All these stages happen when there is a shock. You know change is coming. Stage 1, denial. No way. I'm in my comfort zone. Some people might be defensive here when they know something is coming. Others could be calm. The best way to deal with the situation in the beginning is to do something that the committee here at Toastmaster did when we knew we were going on lockdown. Why? Because the committee decided to go from sessions face-to-face to sessions online. And they were very honest. They shared the information of what was going to happen, and they did an amazing job. So when we are faced with this, we don't want to be optimistic or pessimistic, just being honest. However, is change already a reality? Yes, it is. But not many people can see it. Some people get frustrated. They get angry. It is not possible that this is happening. Everything is their fault. Some people might even negotiate. So let's say you have a children and they say, no, mom, really, I don't really want to do the chores. And they are angry because they have to wash the dishes. No, you have to wash the dishes. And they're like, no, well, let me, I don't know, walk the dog around instead of doing that. In this stage, it's normal to do this. But the third stage is depression. Now you start to go low. Low energy here equals low productivity. People start to feel sad. They don't want to talk. They feel regret. It's very disappointing what is happening. A good way to excel here is to have empathetic listening. You as leaders, if you have a group of people, your team is going through a change and you can see that they are going through this depression stage, be patient with them. Listen empathetically. There are some things underneath the emotions that they don't really express. Now we start to go up in the curve. Over time, people start to accept, decide, and integrate this change. So stage 4, acceptance and experimentation. Yes, here people start to visualize the new horizon. Remember the beach, the beautiful image? Yes, the beautiful blue sky. Okay, let's see what new beach is out there. Why not? People are more encouraged to take risk here, and the objectives that they usually have are more short-term. So when you are planning on the future, not planning 1 year from now, but doing next week. What is what we're going to do next week? Start to brainstorm. You do a lot of teamwork, creativity, encourage for your team to excel at trial and error. It's so important. Try something, it doesn't work. Okay, try something new. Then you have made a decision. Yes, you create this new ways of working. Collectively, you have done so very well. And what happens now? You have established the integration. Now the change is there. You are doing a good job. So feeling down and sad, it is really normal. It is what makes us human. However, leaving the situation and starting to look for that new beach in that beautiful summer day is what makes us superhuman. Thank you.
And thank you, Daniela, for your presentation. I am going to pause for a minute and let you provide any feedback in any form. Either there will be formal feedback on the Toastmasters website or in a while here, but please take a moment to collect your thoughts. Okay, thank you. So let's get back together and let's get the show back on the road. So before getting to the part where we Toastmasters really excel, which is providing feedback, which is much of a science as it is of an art, let me tell you a bit of what Toastmasters are about today. So Toastmasters really combine today 11 paths, like I was telling you, which go from different things like innovative planning, like Daniela is going through dynamic leadership or effective coaching or engaging humor or whatever. The basic thing is that these 11 paths are designed to target specifically you. So probably most of the paths don't really mean that much to you, but there's that couple of paths that really get you going. So there's ways for you to decide which ones are best for you or not. Even Toastmasters offer you a survey that points you on the right direction, but on and on, all of this is basically about 5 different competencies, which is public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and like Tim was talking just a while ago, confidence. And you can combine those in infinite ways. In fact, when Pathway started, I think they had 9 paths at the start, I'm not sure, but now there are already 11, so things naturally evolve. And this is one of the things that I was planning on telling you about, is what Toastmasters are really all about. This is like, well, for me, mostly this is a playground where you can try out whatever you want. And to tell you about what the organization, the Toastmasters International, is all about, I'm going to ask our PMI Portugal Toastmasters president to tell you all about it. So, Roberto, can you please tell us how PMI Portugal Toastmasters really started and what are these crazy guys doing at this time?
Thank you, Luis. First of all, these crazy guys are doing some kind of benchmarking. They are having fun. Okay? And so they're trying to have benchmarking, trying to have more fun than the others. So that's our benchmarking. Okay? Learn and have fun at the same time. So that's what we try to do here. This club was started in 2016 by members of the PMI Portugal chapter. Members from his vice president for marketing, Luis Branco, and also from João Mendonça, who is a distinguished Toastmaster. So it was a combination of project management and Toastmasters. Initially, it was created only for, or initially it was dedicated to project management, but then it was open to the public, and currently we have huge diversity in this club. So we have people from East Europe, West Europe, from South America, like Daniel and Ivan, and we have people from project management, from engineering, from human resources, telecommunications. So that's why we have fun here, because we are always learning, and we learn every day. And what we like to do here, we have made a member survey about 3 months ago. And what people like to do here and what they appreciate, they are here to learn. They are here, as Tim said, to develop themselves. They are here for the friendship and for the team, and why not to improve their communication skills. Currently, if you want to join a club in Portugal, this is one of the best. So this is the second biggest in Portugal. So the biggest club in Portugal has 37 members. We have 36. And on quality, because we produce, our main goal is training, and we have been the second biggest or the second best in Iberia. So we have delivered, for Toastmasters, we have delivered 30 goals. Okay, the best club has delivered 36, we have delivered 30 goals, and for the second year, we are presently distinguished. So sorry to talk about benchmarking, but if you want to join, a great club, you are in the right place. Okay? You have great people, and by the way, if you are a project members, about 1/3 of the members on this room, on these 13 out of 36, are project managers. So, but basically, we are here, in conclusion, because we like to have fun, learn with fun, and that is our benchmarking. We have to laugh at all the meetings, and we have to learn, and you have to say, I want to come back next week. So Tim, please join us next week.
Thank you, Roberto. And now, can I ask Rui, please, to tell us a bit about Toastmasters International, how all this got started?
Okay, Luis. Toastmasters International started with in the United States in the beginning of the 19th century, when Ralph Smedley, that was a professor in the IMCA, saw that he had excellent students, but they had very difficult to communicate what they know. Then they planned meetings. I suppose it was the dinner meetings, where all of them at time go to speak in an impromptu way, and they training the art of communication. And in the art of communication, the skills to communicate, they developed also the skills to learn to leadership. Actually, the Toastmasters were spread around the world, and they are almost in, I suppose, in 140 countries. There are more than 360,000 members spread in 14,000 clubs. That's the numbers. Here in Portugal, how Roberto said, we have Portugal PMI Portugal Toastmasters, but there are more 40 clubs, more or less. Then we have a very strong movement of Toastmasters in Portugal, and we'd like to do this all the weeks. And we have not only projects from Pathways, but we realize a lot of ourselves weekly in all the projects we have in our club. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Rui. So just to end up this round of general information about what all these sessions are all about, I just shared the link on the chat that I would like everyone to use to give us feedback, because we are very, very keen on feedback. I would say we're crazy on feedback, but we'll see. So anyway, just to show you how this works, this feedback thing works, I would now invite Tim to come back on stage and provide Daniela with some feedback. Now, I should say that people can be scared, or not scared, but afraid, shy, better, shy to provide feedback. but feedback is in fact what can move the other person forward on their path. So I'm sure Tim is very aware of that, and Tim will help Daniela to move forward on her path. So Tim, please come back on stage and help Daniela.
Thank you, Luis. It's my pleasure to evaluate Daniela and her speech change curve. And her speech is part of level 1 of innovative planning, and I think you've chosen the best pathway because I have just completed innovative planning and I got so much out of it. So keep going. This particular speech is a repeat, a speech which was given at a previous meeting. Daniela's had feedback and it's looking to improve. And 3 things from what I was told to improve. One is the opening and closing. Second thing is to involve the audience more. And the third one was to do with vocal style and to be more confident in vocal style. So the structure I'm going to use for the feedback is a way I've developed, which it's called LOL. What I liked about the speech, opportunities for improvement, and what I loved about the speech. So what I liked was the way it started, and the way that Daniela described my goal with the picture. I liked the way the audience was engaged by raising of hands, and you used that to make sure the audience was paying attention and felt that they were involved. What I would suggest as an opportunity for improvement would be the transition you made to actually showing the slides. I, in fact, had the same problem, getting the slides up and running before I started. And there must be a better way of doing it. Running in Zoom is a new thing for all of us. And I'm wondering whether there's a way of having someone else put the slides up or having the slide up as you start, because I suddenly found myself, I was doing 5 things at once to get the slide up, and I think it can be distracting. So that would be an improvement to consider. There are 3 things about virtual presentations that I've discovered, and they all begin with V. One is the view, or the first one I thought was the vision. And be clear that the audience is actually in the green dot, and you did very well keeping your attention on that. The second thing is the view that people see and what's behind you and what's going on. And I noticed you from time to time, Danielle, would swivel in the chair, and that could be a bit distracting, so watch out for that. But the third V is the voice. The voice is so important when you're in a virtual environment, and making best use of that. And what I loved about Daniela's speech was the way she used her voice, particularly the power when she talked about shock. When she said it, the pace was really good. And then the thing which was most impressive to me was the way you used the pauses. And that meant that there were no filler words or crutches that you were appearing there. So that came across very, very well. So I loved your vocal variety, and I encourage you to sort of move on with innovative planning as the pathway. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela, for your presentation, and thank you, Tim, for providing your feedback. And now we're opening the mic to the entire room again, to whoever wants to help Daniela to make a better next speech. And I see already Roberto with his hand up.
So
and here you go, Roberto. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'll go direct to the point because you ask about the start. So great pitch, and then you get everybody involved. I would just suggest that you wait about, imagine your favorite beach, and let us have some time. let's say about 5 to 10 seconds, okay? Not 2, 3. Let's just imagine a good beach, okay? Because I was trying to imagine my favorite beach and then you started. Okay, let me appreciate the beach, okay? That's the first point. The last slide I would change and put another beach, okay? It's about the same because you like a beach, you want to go to a beach, but you're talking about change. So you have to go to another beach. That's basically how you start your speech, okay? Another great beach, but must be a different beach. That's my only recommendation. Thanks, that was a great speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto. I'm afraid we have to move on because we were 3 minutes ahead of schedule and I've managed to get us 4 minutes behind of schedule. So I'm just going to ask someone else's feedback and then we'll move on. I don't see anyone wanting to provide feedback. Okay, Rui, you go.
Daniela, congratulations. I appreciate very much the excellence of your presentation because you improved a lot from your first speech. I think you have two strong moments here. It's your slides, very good slides, very well balanced in terms of information and very nice to see. And after the way you prepare the narrative, your narrative seems to be very logical and everything makes sense to me because I am thinking with you. I am the audience and all the audience is thinking and is following you. What you could improve is the strongest finish. You have there the ideas. You said something in the final phrase, change is permanent in our life. I don't remember in detail, but this idea is very strong. I think you should say it in a very strong way, in a very emphatic way. That's all. Very good. Congratulations. An excellent presentation.
Thank you, Rui. And we move on. And now for the technical evaluations. So we evaluated the speech that Daniela was kind enough to provide us with. And now we're going to provide some technical evaluations. We had some initial contact with the grammarian, but we have some more functions. And to tell us more about those functions and to provide us with the report, I'm going to start to call for the timekeeper, Ileana Ribeiro, which is going to tell us first what her function is all about, and then provide us with the timekeeper's report. Welcome, Daniela. Ileana. Sorry.
That's all right, Luis. Thank you. Absolutely. So in Toastmasters, we learn to speak within our designated time frame and to excel at time management also. Throughout the session, I've been displaying color cues, so like this green and this yellow, and so that this meeting will be run on time. So today's session started on time. Then our first Toastmasters, Luis Chabricoelho, and our grammarian, Patricia Malta-Diaz, excelled at keeping their introductory speeches on time with 3 minutes and 25 seconds, 1 minute and 35 seconds, and 1 minute and 44 seconds respectively. Our special guest, Tim Podesta, started on time and finished in 38 minutes and 27 seconds. Our Q&A session ran smoothly, and Daniela Rodrigues also started on time and gave her speech in 6 minutes and 26 seconds. Luis Chabricoelho, Roberto Freitas, and Rui Domingos spent 10 minutes presenting Toastmasters. Evaluating Daniela's change curve speech, Tim Podesta spent 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Congratulations to everyone involved in this organization of this special event. You've also excelled at time management. Luis, back to you.
Thank you, Ileana. And I sure should have read the agenda more closely because it was not your time to provide feedback. It was João Marques, the HA counter, who should have been here. So I'm calling now João Marques to tell us all about the HA counter function and to provide us with your report. Welcome, João Marques.
Thank you. Thank you, Luís Chiabra Coelho. It's a challenge to be excel in my report today. The accounter proposal, the accounter, the job of the accounter is to note words and sounds that are used to crunch and pause files, like sounds that make noise for the audience. During the meeting, I will use words, including and, well, but, and I think today it was not a lot of words, not but more repeat words. Okay, to begin my report. Sebastião Barata, today he's open. He makes 8. Luís Chiabra Coelho, 10. But Chiabra Coelho speaks a lot. Is normal, repeats a little. Repeats to one time that. Patrícia Malta Dias, nothing to say. He's not today. The special guest, Tim Podesta, congratulations for your speech, and thank you. One and some repeats. Repeats at my question, some, those, so, this, for, and your hands sometimes make like this. The mannerisms, okay, sometimes make a lot of like this. But congratulations, 1 hour to speak. I think it's small things. Daniela Rodrigues, in his speech, change curve and the beautiful beach in the south of Portugal, in Algarve. I like that beach too. 3 free hands and nothing more. Congratulations, Daniela. Tim Podesta, evaluation, Daniela, 0. Nothing to say. Congratulations, Tim. Roberto Freitas, 2 hands. Rui Domingos, 5 hands, 2, and repeat 2. And I think it's enough. Thank you for everybody. It was very good to make this job today. Thank you.
And thank you, João Marques. And now we get back to the grammarian. That was Patrícia Malta Dias today. So, Patrícia, how did we behave today?
Well, today I think we excelled. Of course, we had Tim Podesta. It's always a pleasure to listen to a native speaker, English speaker, of course. But let's begin with Sebastião. Sebastião referred to the 51st anniversary of Apollo's landing, and it is the 51st. Luís, you used Excel, the word of the day, and you said something like perform better at the next time. Perform better the next time. Then you said, I call the grammarian, which is Patrícia. And you said, I call the timekeeper, which is Eliana. And it is who is, not which is. You said Toastmaster combine 11 pathways, and it is Toastmaster combines. And we're crazy on feedback, and I'd say we're crazy about feedback. So moving on to Tim Podesta, you use the word Excel, and I'd like to emphasize your message, which is I encourage you to plan with purpose. And you referred the 3 C's. We are here to build on our confidence, work on our competence, and challenge yourselves. And we'll excel if you do this. Thank you for your message, Tim Podesta. Daniela, you used twice the word of the day, excel. And you said something like a day on the weekend, and I'd say a weekend day. And you said something like very sad, everybody, and everybody was very sad, very sad. Rui, just saying that you said something, that's the numbers when you refer to the number of clubs, and I'd say these are the numbers. And Liliana, you said twice the word of the day, and João Marques, you said the word of the day, and you referred to Sebastião in his open, well, and I'd say Sebastião in his opening speech. And it is all for today. We are excelling in our communication skills, and let's have fun. Congratulations to you.
Okay, thank you, Patricia, for your feedback on our use of the English language. We're a little late, and I was supposed to have some time now with our guests. And I still would like to have some feedback from a couple at least. Would anyone would like to say, how did you get here? How did you find this session? Is this your first Toastmaster session? And was this according to your expectation? Any volunteers, please? I don't see anyone interested in providing feedback.
You have Tim? Tim?
Is this right? Oh, Tim. Okay, you're a guest, right?
Well,
you go.
I'd ask is, when I do the presentation next time, what would be an opportunity for improvement? What could I do better? Apart from obviously get the sharing of the first slide up better, but that was something I need to practice.
Sorry, I was on mute.
May I?
Sorry, who was that?
Patricia.
Okay, Patricia, you go. Yes.
Okay. Tim, thanks a lot for your interesting presentation. Well, 1 hour, almost 1 hour presentation is really a marathon, and it is really difficult to do. But I'd say that you could work on the vocal variety and energy throughout the presentation, because the themes are interesting, but well, it's long for us here on our side to keep the attention, and well, I was using active listening, but it's long, so if you could well work on vocal variety, or I don't know, Zoom is very challenging because we don't move, but well, we can show our hands, or we can do something whatsoever to keep up the energy and the flow of the speech. But thanks a lot for your presentation. A very good one.
This was supposedly
Luis, just to remember, we have yet the general evaluator to speak, okay?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But I just wanted to have some feedback from our guests. But
okay.
I guess no one wants to provide us feedback. At least I cannot. Okay. Pedro Costa, there you go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. To Tim, I think you would benefit if your room could be lighter. I think you're in the dark side of the moon right now. Maybe if you have, I don't know if it's your background or if it's the light in your room, but I believe you can pass another image, a more lightful image, if you can lighten up a bit your room.
Thank you, Pedro. Okay, so we were going to, okay, we have Nuno Dias still. So here you go, Nuno. You are still on mute, Nuno.
Unmute. Now?
Okay.
It's okay?
Now
Okay.
you go.
So I'm a newcomer. I'm started last week and liked very much. I'm a Portuguese, but now I'm working in Brussels, so I'm a little bit far away from you. I like very much for this this way of doing the presentations and the way we can improve ourselves in communications. I want to say a word also to Tim. Good presentation, and that's it. I think I'm going to join the group. Later, I will try to send you an email to understand how we can do it.
That is so great. Welcome, Nuno.
Thank you.
And now, to do some benchmarking, I'm surely not doing a good job because now we are 6 minutes late, and that is official. Before I ask José Oliveira Gonçalves to provide us with an evaluation of everything else that hasn't been evaluated yet. So the stage is yours, José Oliveira Gonçalves.
Thank you, Luis. Good evening to all. Thanks for being present. Mainly Nuno Dias, who is, I hope, a new member of our club, but special also for this excellent session to all that were involved on creating, on negotiating, on preparing, and publicizing this session. It was remarkable to have almost 50 people here, and I would say that it is one other way of leading the way by PMI Portugal Toastmasters. The session started on time, and as Luis said, is not going to finish on time, unfortunately. That's something that we have to improve. But Sebastian, as a sergeant at arms, made very well the events of the day. He knows I like very much that we connect our activity with society, with history, all this kind of thing. It was very interesting. The only advice I can tell him is for certain reason, he clapped hands without a reason. That's the only thing I saw in his work that could be improved. Luis, as always, is a smooth operator. He surely likes very much Shadu because he does all these sessions with calm and smooth transitions. He has done that to our grammar, which is a very active woman. I will go to her afterwards. But he also introduced Tim Podesta. Could be a more energetic presentation. Tim deserved it, as we saw afterwards. He was a little bit, Luis was a little bit long with the descriptions of the Toastmasters. At a certain moment, I think it was too long, and it could have more energy on certain points. The grammar, the lady grammar, is excellent in many things, and also in grammar for a non-native English person. She has made, along with haha counter and the timekeepers, a very effective report on time, short and very effective. About Tim, 2 moments, the learning moment and the evaluation. Learning moment. I immediately sympathized with Tim. We have a common problem. Our wife's kitchen. You solved yours and you gave us an advice about planning with purpose. You have already a new kitchen and mine kitchen is in the process of preparation still. But it was your presentation was very interesting. I'm sure our people had a lot of things that learned, as I did, for instance, about the confidence, competence, challenge, all these principles that you enlightened us. It was excellent. You also gave us also a tool for preparing our long speeches. Make it in parcels and you arrive there. About evaluation, you made a short evaluation with initial encouragement, and apart from the improvements that you have suggested on pauses, voice and transition, all these kind of things, you have finished your evaluation with the same general encouragement to Daniela. So it was very good. Thank you very much about that. The only advice or the only suggestion I could give on your speech is it was also a very smooth speech, long speech. And it started with some interesting points, but the conclusion was not very strong. You had special words that you could use, recapping the concepts, making those principles stay in our mind. And if you were not paying a lot of attention after a long speech, you could have a problem with that. That's the only improvement I would say. In whole, very good participation. I think that Patricia, apart from saying that we are leading in communication, forgot one thing that is very important for our club. We lead in leadership. We are doing things that the others did not still remember to do. Now we are interfacing with the members or with the speakers of the other clubs, the foreign clubs, and that's the way we should do that, as we have done in preceding years with our Portuguese clubs, with other Toastmasters clubs. Thank you very much to all, and I hope you have enjoyed. As our president says, we are here to enjoy ourselves. Thank you very much.
And that's that. We are here to enjoy ourselves. And still we have an organization to manage. And in order to do that, we have Roberto Freitas, who is going to speak to us about club business and also awards. There you go, Roberto. The stage is yours.
Because we are just running out of time and almost running out of fuel, I'll do a different club business award, just a quick one. First of all, dear dear Toastmasters and guests. As Sebastian has said, Neil Armstrong has landed on the moon 51 years ago. So it was a small step for man, a big step for humankind. Also, those days they traveled on the rocket, on Saturn V rockets, and people saw it on TV. But today is different. Today, team has excelled and team has landed on our club. For team, For sure, for him it was a small step. For a club, it was a big step. And team has traveled not on a rocket, has traveled on Zoom, and people didn't see it on TV. Nobody sees TV today. People have seen it through Zoom and through the internet. So congratulations, Zoom. I mean, congratulations, team. Congratulations, PMI Portugal Toastmasters. And our dear guests, please come back next week for another great missions. And like Nuno, if you want to be an astronaut or an astromaster or a toastmaster, please join us and learn how to communicate to outer space.
Thank you, Roberto. Just let me add to all those non-Portuguese speakers that I bet that are still online, like Tim and Franco and Mona and some others. We don't usually do these sessions in English, but we did this one and we're doing the next one also in English. So you're welcome anytime, but in particular if the session is in English. And I just want to thank you for your energy, for your time, and for your insights to provide feedback and to make the speakers better speakers and to make the leaders better leaders. And I will now share the session to Sebastião Barata to close it. Thank you so much for being here, for your time, and I know it's a bit late in the evening, so thank you. Sebastião.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all, and I close the session. Bye-bye, everybody, and be back next week.
That must be the fastest ending session that I've ever seen. Thank you for helping us to be online.
I must go. Bye.
Okay, now we are